over again.
911 atrocity.
This is what they're planning. The Illuminati 911 is coming about. We'll be back.
And by having the legitimate left and legitimate right working together, we outflank the sons of bitches, which take the center ground.
You talk about that in your
book.
This
event was
Erskine's guest, a pilot named Will Thomas, exposed the outright lies the White House spin doctors and the FBI tried to sell us after the attack. Just days from the show, I was taking a ferry to Vancouver Island in British Columbia, working my way north to meet with this man to find out what he knew that I didn't. The FBI claimed they found Muhammad Atta's Saudi Arabian passport amongst 100,000 tons of smoking rubble, twisted steel, burnt bodies and debris under the collapsed Twin Towers. And from that, the very next day, were able to give us both the names and the pictures of 19 skyjackers they claim commandeered the Boeing jetliners. To buy this story, you'd have to believe that Atta's paper passport survived traveling through 6-inch steel beams of one of the strongest, tallest structures ever built, then passed through the interior walls, doors, files, desks, toilets, plumbing, and elevator shafts while engulfed in a ball of flame that the FBI said melted steel, and then fell to the ground 70 stories, where they picked it up, intact. I mean, they'd have to have you believe that Muhammad's passport is made out of kryptonite and came from a planet far, far away. I have a man with me today, Will Thomas. His book, All Fall Down. The 911 event. Of course, it was rigged. I mean, you know that, don't you? What, you don't? We're going to talk about FB lie number 1. These 19 guys, who are they? I mean, how could they, you know, within 48 hours come out with pictures of all of these 19 so-called terrorists?
Well, at least 7 of the named kamikaze pilots were very upset to see their names and photographs splashed in the world's press, since they're very much alive and working with legitimate businesses in Arabia, such as airlines and oil companies. We know that an 8th named hijacker died a year before the incident on September 11th. So right off the top of this story, we have major questions around the identities of the people actually involved. These gentlemen, so named, could not fly a Cessna. That's the FB lie number 2.
If they couldn't fly a Cessna, how in the hell can they fly a 757 and a 767?
What kind of plane is this?
This is a 737-300.
737?
300.
300.
300 is the non-glass cockpit. 700s that we have, they're all glass.
Uh-huh.
The way you can tell the difference is the canoe things that are on the wing.
Yeah.
They're painted orange. That's how you can tell the difference. Or you can look up here and you can see the little TV screens.
How difficult would it be to fly one of these things?
They're actually not too hard to fly. They're easy to fly. They're hard to land.
Hard to land.
Yep. The hardest plane I've ever tested to land consistently smooth. That is.
How about navigating? You have to do that at the same time?
Sure do.
That's difficult?
No, navigation is easy. These guys, they got GPS and they got an INS. GPS, global positioning system, and the INS, inertial navigation system. So it's you get them within a point or within 100 feet.
Mm-hmm. I've flown the Microsoft 757 simulator, and they're very easy to fly in a straight level, but the minute you start to bank the airplanes and adjust your speed up or down, you can get to the edge of that flight envelope very quickly. The named pilots on these attacks of September 11th, in fact, repeatedly flunked out of flight schools across the United States, to the point where one flight instructor was quoted in the papers as saying they couldn't even drive a car. Their lack of English language skills.
You know, here's a guy They can't even drive a damn car. I mean, they're used to driving a camel. And, you know, they're practicing. I see over and over the reruns of these guys training on a jungle gym. It's something that's taken off a playground in Los Angeles. They can't drive a car.
We discovered a story from September 15th's Washington Post stating Muhammad Atta had been to International Officers School at Maxwell Air Force Base in Montgomery, Alabama, and that others of the terrorists had attended the Aerospace Medical School at Brooks Air Force Base in Texas and the Defense Language Institute in Monterey, California. 3 of the terrorists had even listed their address on their driver's license as the Naval Air Station in Pensacola, Florida, the story went on, where they participated in military exchange programs for foreign officers at the Pensacola Naval Air Station. Foreign nationals who became terrorist pilots were training at U.S. military facilities. They would most likely have had connections to air governments considered friendly to the United States.
They say on the American airline list, they only had 56 people. And no Arabs. Not one single one.
It seems incredible to me that young Arab males, some of them flying on one-way tickets paid for with cash, others with no luggage at all, would be allowed on these airplanes without even minimal scrutiny, since warnings had been passed to the White House and to the FAA months in advance of these attacks. Repeated warnings from BND, German intelligence, from French intelligence, from Putin, the president of Russia, telling his intelligence operatives to inform Washington repeatedly that 25 hijackers flying aircraft would attack symbols of American wealth and power. We had students in Brooklyn warning their schoolmates not to go downtown Manhattan on September 11th. Those warnings weren't passed. But when the mayor of San Francisco flew into New York City on September 11th, he was warned the night before by an agent of security for the airport to, quote, be very careful traveling on the 11th. Why wasn't the American public afforded the same warning?
Well, wait a minute. Now, we're talking about Willie getting a warning. Willie Brown, he gets a warning. I mean, he lives, everybody else dies. The president knew about this. This story is so outrageous in the fact that they said that these 19 so-called terrorists blew up this building, and the FBI or FBI didn't know a damn thing about it. The CIA, the ISA, the NSA, the FAA, the U.S. military, naval intelligence, I mean, the Secret Service. And Bush said, hey, he was just reading a nursery rhyme about a goat. Maybe it was a goat of Baphomet to the school children at the Booker School in Sarasota, Florida.
She played with her goat. Go on. But the goat did something made the girl dance. But get ready. But the goat did something that made the girl dance. Go on. But the goat did something that made the girl dance. Go on. But the goat did something that made the girl dance. Go on.
The president was sitting down reading to the school children, and when he was told by Andy Card, his assistant, that the second tower had been hit, you know what he continued reading without a change of expression. He continued reading to the school children. And this is after he knew about the second hit on the South Tower. But what is amazing, he said, well, when asked, and he's been asked by 2 newsmen at different occasions, he says, well, when did you first know about this? He says, well, I was, you know, watching it on television.
And I was sitting outside the classroom waiting to go in, and I saw an airplane hit the tower of a TV. You know, the TV was obviously on, and I used to fly myself, and I said, well, there's one terrible pilot. And it said it must have been a horrible accident. But I was whisked off there. I didn't have much time to think about it. I was sitting in the classroom, and Andy Card, my chief of staff, was sitting over here, walked in and said, "A second plane has hit the tower. America's under attack."